Elijah, the prophet who confronted kings, unleashed miracles at midnight. As the moon hung low and heavy in the night sky, a chilling wind swept through the streets, whispering secrets of the ancient past. Elijah stood at the edge of the town, his figure cloaked in shadows, like a dagger waiting to strike. With a fierce gaze that could pierce through the darkness, he was more than a mere man. He was a legend. They called him a prophet, a man chosen by God to stand against kings, to unravel miracles beneath the cloak of midnight. Rumors swirled about his powers, whispers of fire raining from the heavens and the dead rising from their graves. The very air crackled with anticipation, a thick tension that had the town on edge. The townspeople gathered in hushed clusters, their faces pale and wide-eyed. A child pointed, trembling, at the ground where brave men once stood, but now only silent echoes remained. Some said Elijah could call down thunder, bending nature to his will. Others claimed he had spoken to angels, bringing messages that chilled the soul. As a storm brewed overhead, the sky turned an ominous shade of slate, awakening a primal fear in the hearts of those below. Eyes darted nervously to the rising dark clouds, their hearts pounding like a war drum, seeming to beat in tune with the prophetess' impending arrival. And then, the tension escalated. A loud crack of lightning split the sky, a blinding flash that illuminated the faces of the anxious crowd. Gasps filled the air, followed by a suffocating silence. The murmurs of disbelief hung thick. Who would dare to challenge the authority of kings? This Elijah, so unyielding, provoked a rift that could unleash chaos. The night grew tenser. A storm was brewing, both in the skies and within the hearts of those who witnessed it. What would this prophet demand? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then, in the blinding flash of a third bolt, Elijah appeared before them, fierce and unfazed. He raised his arms, and the crowd felt an electric pull, an unexplainable urge to surrender themselves to this mysterious man. Would they take up arms in his cause? Would they bow before him like common subjects? Eyes burned with anticipation as he stood, a figure carved out of myth, ready to reshape their reality. Who will stand with me against the kings? He thundered, his voice echoing like rolling thunder, igniting a fire deep within the crowd. Some stepped forward, emboldened, while others faltered, fear written all over their faces. The air thickened with the scent of impending change, a shift in the balance of power palpable enough to touch. Would they follow the path of this fearless prophet? And as Elijah's piercing gaze swept across their faces, one question loomed in the charged atmosphere. Who would emerge from this storm, transformed or lost? The crowd stirred, a mixture of fervor and dread wafting through the air like smoke from a fire. Elijah held the gaze of those before him, his eyes a tempest of emotions, confidence, rage, and something deeper, almost desperate. He sensed their hesitation. Their hearts were heavy, burdened by fear and uncertainty. Flashes of lightning closed the distance, casting eerie shadows that danced around the figures of the brave and the cowardly alike. Are you willing to risk it all? His voice boomed, resonating like a declaration of war. Are you prepared to rise against tyranny, to embrace the truth that has been buried under blood and lies? The words ignited flickers of courage in some, while others tightened their grips on their loved ones, the allure of safety pulling them back. His statement hung in the charged atmosphere, almost palpable, tangible. As the wind whipped through the assembled masses, murmurs rippled through the group, some swayed by the call to action, while others dared not look up. A woman, shaking, clutched her child, casting fearful glances at Elijah. But what if we lose? She cried, her voice trembling as it cut through the tension. Then we lose together, Elijah shouted back, his tone unwavering. But in our defiance, there is power. In our unity, miracles can be born. He stepped closer, the crowd collectively drawing in breath, the heat of his passion reaching them. The air buzzed with his intensity, and that spark of rebellion flickered deeper. Why should we listen to you? A man emerged from the sidelines, his voice cutting through the din. He was a stocky figure adorned in humble rags, yet his resolve shone through. What promise can you hold when the kings already cast their shadow over us? A murmur of favor spread among the remaining spectators. Elijah turned, his face a mask of fierce determination. I hold a promise that you can reclaim your voice, reclaim what is rightfully yours. They may wear crowns of gold, but I bear the torch of truth. And then, the storm intensified, as if the heavens conspired with his words. Thunder roared like a battle cry, and suddenly, a brilliant flash illuminated the sky, followed by a wild gust that whipped through the crowd. In that moment, hearts raced, breath hitched, and doubt wavered. But how? A voice from the back dared to ask, filled with skepticism yet yearning for hope. Elijah paused. The air thickened with the weight of his decision. He could not show fear now. I will show you. The next moonrise will not only be a night of darkness, but a night of revelation. We gather at the altar beneath the old oak. Bring your burdens, bring your questions, and bear witness to the miracles that will unfold. The crowds exchanged glances, whispers of disbelief transitioning into muffled excitement. Could it be? The taste of revolution was sweet, but tainted with fear. As he turned away, ready to step back into the night, Elijah felt their eyes glued to him, their hope tangled with uncertainty. And in that moment, a shadow slipped from behind the crowd, unnoticed, a figure cloaked in darkness, watching, waiting. What secrets did they hold? And who was preparing to strike first in this clash between light and darkness? Elijah moved on, the ripped fabric of fate trailing behind him. The night pulsed with danger and desire. The storm raged on as he left the villagers ignited with unrest. But would they find courage in unity? Or would they falter, leaving Elijah standing alone against the looming threat of kings? As the dark figure followed him into the night, it raised a weathered finger, a promise unfolding in the chill of the wind, a reminder that calamity breeds within every heart that beats against injustice. What would it take for fears to dissipate into flames of defiance? The moon dipped lower and the echoes of midnight miracles trembled on the horizon. The chill of the air nipped at Elijah's skin as he navigated through the winding village paths, each step echoing like a drumbeat of fate. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist around him, as if the dark figure lurked just beyond the reach of the dim lanterns flickering overhead. He could feel eyes on his back, whispering doubts and secrets that clawed at the edges of his mind. What power did this darkness hold? Elijah's heartbeat quickened. His breath came in shallow gasps. He had ignited a spark, but would it catch flame among the frightened masses? Every decision weighed heavy. Each word spoken was a leap into the unknown. Where was the line between hope and foolishness? He pushed the thoughts away, forging ahead through the storm that mirrored his turmoil as he approached the clearing. The old oak loomed larger than life, its massive branches reaching out like a guardian of secrets. The villagers, a motley crew of anxious souls, gathered around it, their faces a collage of apprehension and excitement. But one face stood out, a woman with stormy eyes, wild hair, and a resolve that suggested she had seen more than her share of suffering. Her presence was electric, radiating strength yet shadowed in fear. "Elijah," she called out, "what if they come for us?" "The kings?" he responded, stepping into the light. "They will always come. But we must be ready." As he spoke, thunder cracked through the air, reverberating like an ominous answer to his question. Some tightened their arms around each other. Others stood tall, fists clenched in determination. He sensed the tide shifting, but was it enough? "Speak truth, Elijah," a voice rang out from the crowd. "What will you do if they bring their wrath?" The tone was daring, laced with fear, cut deeply, and Elijah had to hold onto his purpose. "I will fight for you," he shouted, We will rise together. We will sever their chains one way or another. The wind shifted, howling around them, carrying the scent of rain mixed with an electric charge of energy. The crowd stirred, glancing from one face to another, caught between the precipice of bravery and the grip of despair. Suddenly, the dark figure emerged from the brush, a silhouette clad in ragged cloaks, eyes shimmering like shards of glass. The air thickened with tension. The crowd fell silent as the figure stepped forward, revealing a man marked by scars both visible and unseen. "Elijah," he rasped, a voice twisted with pain and anger. "You don't know what you're asking. The kings are not just rulers. They are beasts. They crush hope beneath their boots. Then we become the storm." Elijah shot back, heart racing. "We are not alone. Together we can challenge them." Hesitation rooted itself in the hearts of some, while others began to murmur his words, allowing the thought to bloom in the cracks of their fear. But unknown to them, candles flickered out in the houses that bordered the clearing. The king's guards crept closer, their shadows long and hungry, ready for the scent of rebellion. Would it ignite a conflict, or would it snuff out the light before it ever had a chance to blaze? Just as uncertainty gripped the air like a vice, Elijah felt the ground beneath shift with a sudden tremor. The night itself seemed alive, vibrating with impending action. And then the voice rose again, sharp as a blade. "If you speak of storm, know that it brings destruction as well as change. Are you ready to pay that price?" The question hung heavy in the air, piercing through their resolve. Elijah could only stare into the eyes of his people, each blink a question, each breath a decision. As the first bolt of lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the raw emotion in their faces, Elijah understood. This was the moment. Courage or cowardice, clarity or chaos. Could he lead them right through the chaos awaiting them? Would they stand and fight, or would they scatter like leaves in the wind? The answer loomed just beyond their grasp, and a storm unlike any other was brewing on the horizon. What path would they choose as the night whispered secrets and summoned shadows? The air thickened, charged with the weight of decision as the storm gathered strength in the distance. Elijah's voice rang out again, a beacon against the shadows. "We will confront them. We will not be silenced anymore." His words surged like a wave, crashing into the hearts of his followers, clashing with their doubts and fears. Yet, uncertainty snaked through the crowd. Whispers of "what if" spiraled like leaves caught in an autumn breeze. The tension rolled like thunder, and the woman with stormy eyes stepped closer, unyielding. "Are we ready, Elijah? Ready to walk into the jaws of the beast?" Once we step forward, there's no turning back. A steady pulse of anticipation thudded against the backdrop of the approaching storm, and the chill of the wind threaded through Elijah's bones. His heart hammered, each beat a rhythm urging him onward. We must turn our fear into fire. The kings may see us as nothing but ants beneath their boot, but we are more than that. We are the voices they have tried to silence. Suddenly, a bone-chilling howl cut through the clearing, freezing Elijah's breath in his throat. The shadows danced as if aware of the threat looming just outside their fragile circle of light. The guards were near, prowling like wolves, hunting their prey, keen to extinguish the brief flicker of rebellion. "Stay together," Elijah called, clenching his fists in a desperate plea. "We stand here as one, not scattered souls. If they come, we fight. Together." A flash of lightning illuminated the faces around him, revealing a mix of fear and resolve. Some nodded, emboldened, while others faltered, visibly shaken by the primal threat that drew closer with every second. Then came the unmistakable sound of boots thudding against the earth, heavy, deliberate, hungry for justice warped into oppressive cruelty. The crowd tensed, instinctively shifting closer together. "Elijah!" someone cried, panic cutting through the unity they had just begun to forge. "They're coming." A glimmer of steel flashed in the dim light, catching Elijah's attention. "One way or another, this ends tonight," he shouted. "We do not fight just for ourselves, but for every soul bound by fear." The merging shadows of the guards appeared at the tree line, solid and imposing. Their armor gleamed ominously, reflecting the light like stars fallen from the sky. Breaths halted as the reality of their confrontation loomed large. "Stay firm," Elijah yelled, stepping forward to confront the encroaching guards. "You will not take our hope. We will not succumb to your tyranny." Each word dripped with defiance, igniting sparks in the eyes of those around him. But the dark figure from earlier stepped out of the shadows, revealing a patchwork of scars that mapped out his pain and courage. "Elijah," he croaked, stepping back as if negotiating the shadows for safety. "Even your words may not be enough. Do you not see? The kings are merciless. They will break you, or we will break them." Elijah countered fiercely, catching the gaze of the stormy-eyed woman, feeling the raw energy between them like a current. "What is freedom worth if we do not risk it? They cannot quench our spirits if we choose to blaze." With that, the darkness erupted, and the clash of steel rang through the clearing. Villagers armed with whatever they could muster surged forward, flails crafted from pitchforks, stones clenched in trembling fists. Each man and woman became a part of the tempest, furious unity rising to meet the approaching storm. Lightning split the sky again, and in the sudden brightness, their resolve shone fiercely. But as the guards advanced, the realization struck there was no guarantee of victory. Elijah's breath quickened, and his heart thundered in time with the chaos unfolding. Would their courage prove enough to turn the tide? As swords met shields with a clash that reverberated through the air, Elijah fought to hold on to faith, knowing that in this tempest, it was hope it always was that would prove to be the fiercest weapon of all. As the rain began to fall, mingling with blood and sweat, one question lingered in the air. Would they emerge as victors from the storm, or would they be swept away in the chaos they dared to provoke? Elijah grounded his stance as the chaos enveloped him. The clang of metal, screams of anguish, and the roar of nature combined into a deafening storm echoing around them. He could feel the adrenaline flooding his veins, urging him to fight even harder. He wasn't just battling the guards. He was fighting for every soul that had ever been downtrodden and silenced. The dark figure had retreated, but Elijah could sense his fear of fear mirrored in many of the villagers' faces. "Stand firm," he shouted again. "This is our moment." Suddenly, the guards charged, a wave of steel and malice crashing against the defiant villagers. One guard lunged, sword raised high, but Elijah moved faster. He dived to the side, narrowly avoiding the lethal blade. The sound of iron slicing through the air was almost as chilling as the storm above. "Push back. Don't let them break us." His voice cut through the tumult, a rallying cry that ignited a flicker of hope in the hearts around him. As another guard surged toward him, Elijah swung a pitchfork, connecting with a clang that sent the man staggering back. In that instant, the thunder roared, shakes the ground beneath their feet. With renewed courage, villagers fought like beasts, their fear replaced by an unyielding resolve. They pressed forward, wielding their makeshift weapons with a tenacity that surprised even Elijah. Blows were exchanged, cries of pain erupted, but amidst the chaos, there were sparks of unity. A rock hurled took down one guard. A brave woman pushed another to the ground. But then came a piercing scream. Elijah turned, heart dropping as he spotted the stormy-eyed woman. She was pinned under a guard, struggling against his weight. In that moment, time froze. He could hear his heartbeat pounding loud enough to drown out the battle. "No!" he shouted, rushing toward her. He leaped, grabbing the hilt of the guard's sword as metal clashed with metal. But the guard was strong, pushing back with a sneer that sent dread creeping up Elijah's spine. "You think you can stand against the kings? You're nothing," he growled. "You underestimate us." Elijah grunted, forcing the blade away. "This isn't just a fight. It's a reckoning." He felt a surge behind him as others joined the fray, lending strength and support. He could barely register the cries, the clash of steel. His world narrowed to the struggle at hand. With a final effort, he stumbled backward, pulling the guard with him until he lost his balance and crashed to the ground. "Get up," he urged the woman, extending a hand. They had to keep fighting. The tide was turning, but not without losses. Overhead, the storm raged, the sky angry and tumultuous, as if matching the discord below. And just when it seemed the guards would falter, the leader stepped forward, dark and dreadful, wielding a weapon that glimmered with a sinister light. "Enough!" he bellowed, voice booming above the clamor. His presence stilled the battlefield. Even the wind seemed to halt in respect. Fear clouded Elijah's resolve. He knew they were facing more than just weapons. They were facing a calculated savagery. It was tyranny incarnate. He took a breath, steadying himself for what was to come. "We will not yield," he called out, rallying his remaining strength. The tension thickened, thick as the suffocating storm closing in from all sides. Behind the leader, another guard gathered around, forming a calculating wall of muscle and malice, a fortress to crush this spark of rebellion. "Will you be crushed, Elijah?" The leader taunted with a wicked smile, eyes glinting darkly. "Or will you let your hope be shattered by the inevitable?" Elijah swallowed the doubt rising like bile in his throat. "We will rise," he shouted back, holding the pitchfork like a banner. "This storm will not be the end. Not tonight." But as he spoke those words, a creeping sense of dread twisted within him. Could he truly protect his people? Would this desperate stand become their final act? The oncoming darkness deepened as the storm loomed closer, and outside the chaos, something more sinister seemed to thrum in the air. Thunder rumbled, something shifted in the guard's stance, and a wicked smile crept onto his face. "Then let the tempest claim you." A blinding flash illuminated the chaos, revealing a haunting truth. What if this battle was only the beginning? Before Elijah could grasp what that meant, the storm unleashed its fury, and the clash became more than a rebellion. It became a fight for survival, for hope against the dark tides rising. Would Elijah prove to be a beacon of light, or would the darkness snuff him out forever? The storm erupted into a wild frenzy, winds howling like tortured spirits. Rain fell hard, pelting the ground as if the heavens themselves were joining the fight. Elijah struggled to stay upright, the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the pitchfork clutched tightly in his hands. The flickering flare of hope sparked in his chest, yet he felt a heavy burden, a responsibility he didn't know he could bear. The guards regrouped, their faces grim as they faced the villagers. One of them, the leader, the man with the glimmering weapon, took a step forward, his eyes gleaming like shards of ice. "You think this is a battle for freedom? You are fools." His voice crackled with malice, every word dripping with contempt. "The storm will cleanse this place, and your dreams will drown in its fury." Elijah's heart raced, defiance bubbling up inside him. "You don't understand," he shouted. "This is more than just a fight. This is a reckoning together. We stand against tyranny." A ripple of determination ran through the villagers. They could feel the weight of Elijah's words, a fire igniting in their trembling hearts. For a second, the sounds of clashing metal and cries of anguish faded, replaced by a silence thick with resolve. But it shattered quickly. The leader, as if sensing their collective strength, raised his glimmering weapon, now crackling with eerie power. "Then witness your annihilation," he roared, and thrust it into the sky. Lightning struck, illuminating the battlefield, a split-second flash revealing horror and hope intertwined. The guards surged forward, an unholy wave of brutality crashing against the villagers once more. Shouts filled the air, a cacophony of desperation. Elijah fought like a man possessed. Every swing of the pitchfork was fueled by a fierce protectiveness. He felt the sting of a blade graze his arm. Pain shot through him, but he didn't relent. Blood joined the rain on the ground, a grim testament to the fury unleashed. Just as Elijah ducked under another swing, a memory flickered through his mind, his father's voice urging him to never back down, to be the light in the darkness. "For every soul that's been hurt," he shouted, rallying himself, and crashing into the fray with renewed strength. The villagers began to push back hard, some moving with a ferocity that surprised their oppressors. One man threw a stone that struck a guard squarely in the face. The guard stumbled, and for a moment, Even he seemed caught off guard by the villagers' sudden unity. But there was no time to savor small victories. The leader laughed, a cruel sound that cut through the chaos. You cling to hope like moths to a flame, but flames beget ashes. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned the storm, and bolts of energy lanced from his weapon, stunning nearby villagers. Elijah's heart thudded painfully in his chest. "Get down!" he yelled as he shielded the woman who'd almost been crushed before. Thunder cracked, enveloping them in a frightening embrace, shaking the earth. "Where there's hope," he rasped, rising determinedly. "There's a way." Then something snapped. From deep within, a raw surge of energy coursed through him, pushing back against the dread. It was as if the storm answered his call, aligning with his spirit. In that wild moment he felt an overwhelming power, a connection beyond what he could explain. As he lifted the pitchfork, the air hummed with potential. The storm cracked above. Was it in his mind? Or was this truly a new force surfacing around him? "Elijah!" A voice called from behind, but he was too wrapped up. He needed to harness this feeling. Then, he heard it, a chorus rising from the villagers, chanting his name. They were following him, unity surging like the storm itself. It was a primal song of resilience, shaking the very foundation of fear that had encased them. "What is this?" the leader sneered, confusion furrowing his brow. But as Elijah stepped into the eye of this chaotic storm, something shifted. Somewhere inside, a part of him knew this was just the beginning of something immensely powerful. Could they turn the tide? Could they reshape destiny? Together, Elijah called, raising the pitchfork high. "Let us bring the storm to them." As another bolt of lightning split the sky, a realization hit him hard, an awakening of sorts. Hope was igniting, and the battle was far from over. The storm mirrored the tumult within, and in that chaos, a heartbeat of change began to pulse. What would happen next? Could he really channel this tempest? Would it lead to salvation or destruction? The answers lay lurking beyond the storm, and they were more dangerous than he ever anticipated. The air crackled with tension, a palpable energy that surged through Elijah and the villagers around him. The leader's sneer twisted into a grimace as he realized the tide was turning. The storm roared in response, filled with a fierce determination that matched the villagers' newfound spirit. "Stop them!" he bellowed, and the guards redoubled their efforts, closing in with weapons drawn. Elijah could see the fear in their eyes, and it fueled him further. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for each other, for a future free from oppression. With each thrust of his pitchfork, Elijah felt the storm within him intensifying. It wasn't just a weapon anymore, it was an extension of his will, a channel of the collective strength multiplying around him. He could hear voices rising above the chaos, a symphony of hope echoing in his ears. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. One of the guards, driven by desperation, swung wildly at Elijah. The blade sliced through the air, narrowly missing him. Elijah instinctively jabbed the pitchfork forward, catching the guard off balance and chanting fiercely, "You don't own our lives." But as Elijah pushed deeper into the fray, something strange happened. The glimmering weapon in the leader's hand pulsed, sending a shockwave that knocked Elijah back. He stumbled, pain shooting through his chest, and for a moment, the chant of villagers faded. Could the leader wield the storm? Was he using it against them? His mind raced, processing the enormity of what this battle truly was. This wasn't just a fight for freedom, it was a contest of wills between the oppressor and the oppressed, a storm against a storm. "Do you feel it?" he gasped, finding breath amid the urgency. "This power, it's alive. It's us." The villagers rallied with renewed vigor, taking courage from Elijah's words. They surged forward. Each one of them, men, women, young and old, were now standing shoulder to shoulder, a tapestry woven from shared pain and resolute hope. The leader's mockery transformed into something more sinister. Fear and anger danced across his face. "Fools!" he shouted, attempting to regain control. He raised his weapon again, summoning a tempest of lightning that forked ominously above them, crackling with deadly intent. Elijah's heart pounded in his chest. raw adrenaline pushing him to act. "Everyone, together," he cried. "Channel it. Let it flow through you." He felt it again, the energy roiling, a searing strength that resonated through each villager, a wild pulse syncopated to a collective heartbeat. They were no longer just individuals. They were a force. As they directed their strength to the storm above, the winds shifted, swirling violently as the dark clouds roared their approval. The leader's weapon crackled loudly, but it seemed to falter under the combined power of Elijah and the villagers. "What is happening?" he screamed, confusion morphing into sheer panic. "Your tyranny ends here," Elijah thundered, thrusting his pitchfork into the air. The storm answered his call, the winds howling ferociously as a wall of power surged forward. Raindrops turned to daggers, and the lightning cracked down, illuminating their faces hardened by fear, yet glowing with defiance. Then, everything froze. Time stood still as Elijah and the villagers harnessed their fear into something formidable. The storm above them coalesced, a bright funnel of energy swirling, ready to unleash its wrath. Elijah's body tingled with anticipation. But was this power going to consume him? As the first bolt struck the ground nearby with a deafening crack, a chilling realization gripped him: this new force could just as well turn against them. Would they emerge victorious? Or would the storm they unleashed prove to be their undoing? In that moment of uncertainty, it became clear. The outcome of their rebellion hinged on the very essence of their unity. Would they prevail, or would the chaos they conjured consume them whole? Each second stretched with the weight of impending fate, and just as the storm began to charge with dazzling energy once more, a chilling whisper echoed through the air, a warning or a beckoning: embrace the storm, or be lost in it. Elijah trembled, grappling with what lay ahead. This wasn't just a fight for freedom. It was a desperate dance on the edge of destruction. What would emerge from this tempest? The answer loomed closer than they imagined. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the storm unleashed its fury. Rain lashed against their skin, sharp and unyielding like the stakes of their fight. Elijah's heart raced, a torrent of fear and hope surging through him. The villagers around him were locked in a shared, desperate determination. This fleeting moment could define their existence. "Hold steady," he shouted, though his own voice wavered against the crackle of electricity in the air. Each person facing the leader and his guards was a reflection of his own turmoil, pulsing with raw energy and trembling in the face of chaos. The leader, now a figure of pure rage, raised his weapon high, summoning the storm to his will. "You think you can fight me?" he roared. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the panic in the eyes of his guards. They could feel it, a creeping fear tightening their chests as the energy fizzled around them. That brief flicker of light. Elijah saw it, the weapon glowing with an otherworldly blue light, pulsating with a life of its own. It was no ordinary tool. It was a conduit of power that seemed to drink in the storm's might, redirecting it like a predator stalking prey. "Focus," Elijah called out, pushing against the tide of despair closing in around them. "It's not just about power, we need to trust each other." He lifted his pitchfork once more, spearheading their resolve. They were a community built on shared pain, rallying against a common foe. Letting fear fester would destroy them. If in answer to his plea, the villagers surged forward, their spirits intertwining. With each passing moment, their collective vibration formed a protective barrier against the thrumming, violent energy surrounding them. Yet how long could they withstand the shock? The leader laughed derisively. "You believe this unity will save you?" His voice dripped with contempt, but it quivered. In his eyes, Elijah discerned a flicker of doubt, a crack in the armor of his cruel authority. Maybe the tables were turning. But just then, a violent gust of wind tore through the crowd, scattering a few villagers. They stumbled but quickly regrouped, reigniting the flame of their resolve. "Stay strong," Elijah urged, rallying them as he prepared to push forward once more, to challenge the oppression bearing down on them. "Join me or perish," the leader thundered, the storm swirling dangerously above him, lightning flashing like knives. The sheer magnitude of it threatened to engulf them all. Elijah felt the energy inside him building, a whirling tempest of instinctual human spirit, and it was fierce, Together, they needed to harness the storm, but with such potent power at their fingertips, what might they unleash? With a powerful cry, Elijah plunged the pitchfork into the ground, channeling their collective hope into the earth. A wave shot through the villagers, their feet grounding into the soil, linking them as one. The storm above seemed to pause, holding its breath as shockwaves emanated from their union. Now! He bellowed, mirroring the fury of the storm as he called on this wild energy surging around them. He urged it forth with every ounce of strength he had. But from the darkness, a chilling voice echoed deep within him, a warning. You unlock the storm, but the question remains. Can you control it? What would this unleashed force bring? Would it heal their lives, or bury them beneath the very chaos they sought to command? Elijah struggled to push those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the present, their world trembling on the precipice of change. But fate was unpredictable, and as they stood ready to unleash their defiance, a blinding flash of light surged downward, striking the ground dangerously close to Elijah. The unmistakable scent of singed earth filled his nostrils, and he realized with a gasp the storm was watching, and it was hungry. Would they harness it, or would they vanish beneath its wrath? A tangled knot of destiny unraveled in front of Elijah's eyes, leaving one question ringing through the chaotic air. Are you prepared for what is to come? As the answer hung suspended, the storm doubled down, promising that everything was about to change one way or another. The storm roared with renewed fury, a cacophony that drowned out all rational thought. Elijah's heart hammered wildly in his chest, an instinctual drumbeat urging him to act. He could see the flickering light of the leader's weapon growing ever stronger, the hum of its energy pulsating with a rhythm that matched his own frantic heartbeat. Together, he shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. Each word was a stalwart attempt to tether the villagers to the moment, to the power swelling within them. Fear flickered in their eyes, but beneath it lay an ember of resolve, growing brighter the more they leaned into their unity. But before any more light could be summoned, the leader sneered, his face twisted in rage. Fools! He spat, brandishing his weapon as thunder cracked overhead. His guards, bolstered by his aggression, shifted uneasily, glancing at one another as doubt seeped into their ranks. You think your bond can defeat me? Elijah locked eyes with his closest friend, Mira, standing steadfast beside him. Her face was determined, but a flicker of concern danced in her gaze. What if we unleash something we can't contain? She whispered, her breath barely audible over the storm. I can't let fear hold us back. Elijah retorted, feeling the surge of electricity snake through him. We have to believe in each other. The wind howled like a living beast, whipping around them like a cyclone. As Elijah pleaded with their unity, the ground beneath them trembled, responding to a force beyond their understanding. The villagers were raw but ready, clawing at courage, as if it were a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. At a crackle of energy shot from the leader's weapon, shimmering like a snake poised to strike. Your bravery is your downfall, he roared. With an exaggerated motion, he unleashed a bolt of energy toward Elijah and the villagers. The air rippling with the charge, everything slowed. Time elongated. The lightning shot forth, spiraling across the distance, a serpent hungry for flesh. Elijah, driven by instinct, raised his pitchfork high, feeling the collective pulse of the villagers surge through his arms as they channeled their energy toward him. Then, with a shout that broke through the veil of fear, Elijah thrust his weapon into the earth again. Now, feel our strength. The ground replied. There was a thunderous roar, a deep rumble that echoed back from the storm. The villagers erupted, their voices lifting as one harmonious shout that matched the howl of the wind. It was a sound that defied their fears, an anthem of defiance. In that moment, the storm shifted. For a heartbeat, it felt as if the heavens above recognized their resistance. The air crackled, not with anger but with an electric charge of possibility. But then the leader howled in anger, and the sky darkened. Realizing what was happening, he lashed out again. You will all perish. And with that, his weapon surged brighter, drawing power from the storm itself, feeding it with every ounce of desperation. Elijah felt the crackling energy intensify, a vibrant pulse ready to explode. They were precariously balanced on the edge of an abyss, hope fighting fiercely against despair. "Do you feel that?" he gasped, locking eyes with Mira once more. "We must hold on." The villagers steadied themselves, gripped by an unyielding bond as the weapon's energy raced toward them. It was a race against time, a dance with fate. But just when it felt like their unity could overcome the insurmountable, Elijah felt a sinister whisper creep up from within him, the fear that maybe they weren't ready. The realization chilled him to the bone. What if unleashing the storm meant unearthing something deeper and darker than they could ever imagine? Would they emerge heroes or incite an unleashing that would seal their fate? And amidst that tumultuous surge of will, a single thought blazed through Elijah's mind: had they already gone too far? As the clash between power surged into the night, Elijah knew that the next moment would answer all their questions or condemn them all. The storm raged above and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Elijah's heart pounded like a war drum, adrenaline coursing through his veins, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily upon him. This was the moment, the brink of destiny. "Stand strong," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The villagers rallied around him, eyes blazing with determination. They surged, united under a single purpose, drawing strength from one another. Elijah could feel it. Hope blossoming amidst despair, a light inching through layers of darkness. The leader of the guards, face twisted in rage, charged forward, weapon alight with a sinister glow. "Fools! You dare defy the kings?" His voice boomed, but within it, a tremor of uncertainty whispered. Could they really stand against the tide? Elijah felt the air pulse, each heartbeat synchronized with the collective spirit surrounding him. The bond between them shifted the atmosphere, a synergy of courage that seemed to challenge the dark leader's might. "We are more than what you see," Elijah called out. "Together we rise." Lightning crackled overhead, illuminating the fear in the guards' eyes. They hesitated, the tide of the battle subtly shifting. It was an opening, a crack in their false confidence. "Now, my friends," Elijah cried, thrusting his pitchfork into the ground again. "Channel our strength. Embrace the storm together." The villagers roared, their voices intertwining with the tempest. A wave of energy surged not just from Elijah but imbued by each person standing beside him, their spirits entwined like vines around a mighty oak. The storm overhead pulsated, mirroring their growing strength, channeling power through the grasp of collective will. "Witness this," the leader screeched, but it felt as if his voice was now laced with fear. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed another bolt of pure energy. It shot through the air like a comet, spiraling toward them with blinding speed. Time slowed. Elijah felt the weight of the instant pressing upon him. "Together," he cried, raising his pitchfork one final time. "Let this be our moment." The villagers, hearts pounding in unison, drew on their combined resolve. They threw their fists into the air, channeling everything they had with fervor. For freedom, they screamed, a collective battle cry that ruptured the very fabric of fear surrounding them. The bolt collided with the ground, sending shockwaves rippling through the earth around them. Dust and debris filled the air. Elijah's vision blurred as the power erupted in a cataclysm of light, shadows swirling like wraiths before him. A fierce wind howled, engulfing the clearing in uncertainty, anger, and raw power. But amid the tumult, Elijah stood firm, rooted in belief. A moment passed, and the echoes of their chants harmonized with the storm, creating an indescribable symphony of defiance that hung thick in the air. Then, something changed. The energy they conjured morphed, shifting from chaos to clarity, the storm above answering their call. Lightning crackled in rhythm, with their united voices sparks of freedom illuminating the night. Elijah could feel it building, the intensity brimming over like a dam eager to break. "Push!" Elijah roared, channeling everything within him as he locked eyes with Mira, her unwavering spirit giving him strength. "This is our moment. Let us seize it." And in a magnificent surge, the villagers thrust their combined will towards the leader, a spontaneous radiant force, an invocation of hope that surged forth with unexpected fervor. The energy splintered the chaos, erupting like fireworks in the darkened sky. For the leader, it was his undoing. He stumbled backward, fear eclipsing his rage. "No, you're nothing," he shouted, but the thunder drowned his words. The collective spirit of the villagers became a force of nature, a wild tempest that swept toward him, relentless in its path. The storm intensified, twisting into a vortex that grabbed hold of the very essence of the battle. "You will fall," Elijah cried, but it felt less like a threat and more a promise, rooted in their unyielding hope. And in that instant, everything collided. The storm met the leader's sinister glow, an explosion of brilliant light that eclipsed the night. A wave of power washed over them, vibrating through each villager standing resolutely beside Elijah, lifting them higher on the tide of their unity. And the aftermath, silence fell like a blanket. A deafening, reverberating stillness hung in the air, tension threaded with breathless anticipation. Elijah kept his eyes fixed on the spot where the leader had stood. The remnants of the battle echoed in whispers around the clearing, their voices merging into one, a united front against tyranny. Suddenly, the clouds began to part, revealing a sliver of moonlight shining through the chaos, an ethereal glow illuminating their faces, showing the tired but determined villagers who now stood together. They huddled closer, looking to Elijah as their beacon, their promised light. Tears mixed with rain on their faces, but this time they sparkled with triumph, resonating a newfound strength. Elijah took a moment to breathe, filling his lungs with the crisp air heavy with rain. "We are still here," he shouted, the weight of the night easing just enough. "We did this together. We are more than our fears. We are a force." Joyous murmurs broke out among them, an infectious wave of relief coursing through the crowd. People embraced one another, sharing in the victory forged from the storm that had threatened to consume them. The dark figure who had once lingered in the shadows stood at a distance now, watching the unfolding miracle. Surrounded by the warmth of newfound connection, Elijah felt hope mingling on the cool evening breeze. That night marked the beginning of change, a community awakening, fueled by courage and fortified through struggle. The victory was not just over the guards but also over uncertainty and fear. Elijah had led them through a storm, not just of weather, but of spirit, and together they had forged a path toward a brighter future. As the first stars began to twinkle through the clearing clouds, Elijah knew this was only the start. The fight against tyranny would continue, but this time, there was no question that they would stand strong together. And just like that, a new dawn broke, signifying boundless possibilities, the beginnings of a revolution sparked not by chaos but by unity and hope. They would not forget this night, nor each other. It was a moment woven into the fabric of a future they dared to believe in, and as the echoes of their triumph danced beneath the rising dawn, life continued on, the whispers of the past becoming a gentle reminder of the power that lay in their hands. If there was one thing they all learned that night, it was this. The storm had not only been a test of strength, but a testament to the indomitable spirit of hope, leaving only one final call to action echoing through the night. As Elijah raised his pitchfork once more beneath the first light of dawn, he could not help but wonder as he gazed at the faithful souls surrounding him, what miracles would they conjure next? And while the story continued, so too did the call echo in every heart present that night, a call to rise again, to share their story, and to prepare for the next chapter in their fight for freedom. Now, and for the love of the journey ahead, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to witness the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. So, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your voice matters, and together, we roar thunderously against the tides.